Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of Hey Nonprofits Raise More Money. My name's Trevor Nelson, but we have a really, really special guest. He's my best friend. He's the most prolific mind, the brightest fundraising mind that I've ever met. He's taught me more about fundraising than anyone else ever could. And he's my partner. He's one of the owners of HGA Fundraising. It's Jason Ledlow, everybody. Before we get into this excellent episode about planning your fundraising now for 2024, it's January 2024. It's going to be a great year. Before we get into that, Bailey, hit the music. It's been a minute.
It's been so long. It's been a minute.
It's been too long.
I thought you kind of forgot about me. You just kind of took off and left without me.
Well, the people haven't forgotten about you. And someone recently said to me, "Hey, it's your podcast." And I said, actually, sir, it's the people's podcast. And and we're just here to serve, man. So thanks so much for coming, brother.
Kidding.
I appreciate you. For the next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about planning your fundraising for this year well in advance, doing the work now, not procrastinating, not chasing your tail, so to speak, and digging the well for fundraising for your giving now as opposed to later, and why that's so poignant and such a great approach. You've been doing this for 3 decades plus with nonprofits. Tell me, just go wide lens for me and tell me, why it has to be this way as opposed to chasing your tail later.
Well, you got to do the work one way or the other.
Good call.
You can either do it now and have a method to it, or it's just a mad scramble. And it's always, if you have a plan and you execute the plan, it's always going to have a better outcome than if you just do a mad scramble and hope and, cross our fingers and hope that it works out. It just doesn't ever work out very well. And I've been a part of a lot of organizations and a lot of fundraisers over the past 30 years. And whenever I've literally had somebody say, "Well, gosh, I hope it goes well tonight." And I'm like, "How do you not know it's not going to work? You're the one that did the work."
Yeah.
And then word of the day behind me, if you're listening, there's on my screen behind me is the word focus.
I love it.
And the reason it's there, just one word, focus, is because my word for 2024, and it's to focus on the things that matter. In fundraising, we have an affliction, a disease, a tragedy that happens to fundraisers where everybody starts focusing on things that don't really matter. And the reason is because they don't know what to focus on in the first place, because they don't have a plan. And I was talking to a young man yesterday from Joplin, Missouri, and we were talking about his event. And I said, "There's the things you got to focus on." And everything we talked about was all pre-event fundraising. And I said, if you focus on these things, you'll make your goal. No matter what, you'll make your goal. Stock market crashes, you'll make your goal. We have a bad storm, you'll make your goal. Your executive director quits in the middle of everything, you'll still make your goal at your fundraiser. It doesn't matter if you have this plan and you execute it. Somebody from your committee that just, they have a diagnosis in their family or something, they got a family emergency, they got to go take care of it. It doesn't matter. You'll still make your goal because you're focusing on the right things. That's why it matters to start now. Now, that doesn't mean that you've got to go crazy and start having a meeting every week and, having all these things, but to start putting these things together. And if you're an executive director, it is your job to lead your organization. It's your job to lead the board. It's your job. And that means everybody. Then if you're the director of developments, to start asking those questions. What's my goal for this year? Do we have that goal? Because if you don't know what you're going to be trying to shoot for, how in the world are you going to plan anything? And literally, we had this conversation when I had this young man yesterday, and I said, "Well, what's your goal?" And he knew. He said, "Well, this is what we're trying to do." I said, "Okay, well, there's no try. There's either do or not do." And
right. Yeah.
I said, "But if you set this number down and you do these things in advance, you'll hit that."
Yep.
And that's, that way, if everything goes wrong, we want to build your event so that way it raises that amount of money. I see everybody at the last minute, and I'll give you a flip side to that. So another friend of mine who's an executive director of a foundation, she kind of let the committee kind of take off and just start making decisions. And I said, you're the executive director. You got to make those decisions. But if you don't make a decision, they will. And all you have to do is give them guidelines.
Yeah.
Just say, look, you can do anything as long as you color inside these lines.
Yeah, just communicate. Yeah.
And that's where a lot of times people say, well, we want to leave that to the committee. We want to leave those decisions to the committee. But the most successful fundraisers, and I'll give you a couple of examples, that's what they do. They do give their committee that ability to go do those things, but they give them guidelines, and that comes in your pre-planning.
Right.
So maybe right now in January of 2024, even if your event's not until September, you start out by putting out the guidelines. What's my goal? What are my goals? And then how am I going to get there? If my goal is to raise $200,000 and you've only raised 100 in the past, it's a pretty big goal. So you got to kind of start figuring that out.
Yeah.
Maybe I want to have a bigger committee. Maybe I want to get some, a new $50,000 sponsor that I've never had before. Those are the things, those big rocks that, the big things that are going to move the mountain, so to speak. Those are what you want to work on and focus on right now.
Those things take time.
Well, they do.
Yeah, that's why.
And just because you sit down and think about it for 10 minutes doesn't mean it's magically going to appear and you're going to have it. It's just, you've got to start planning those things out. And you and I both know this, Trevor, because we're pretty big on goal setting and planning. There's something that happens when you just write it down and you state it.
Yep.
Especially publicly.
There's an accountability, publicly, of course. There's an accountability.
Well, I mean, like within your organization, within your group, within your board, when you start saying these are the things that we're going to accomplish, these are our goals, little things start happening where people start pulling that way, and it just works. And we start happening, and we start moving on, and we start rolling with it, and it just works really out real well. And that's why I encourage people to start planning now.
Yeah. You start putting that work in, not to get esoteric or anything like that, but I just noticed in my own life, you start putting that work in and you start, okay, we're seeing some success or we're building here. It starts affecting other areas by default.
Oh, and there's no doubt.
You know what I mean?
No doubt about it.
And then of course I'm going to get cliche with you on a couple things, but like everyone's so outcome driven and all that. And it's fine. You got to understand that. I get that. But you need to get lost in the process, right? And everyone's always talking about process over outcome. And I totally get it, but it's poignant. It makes sense. But you said, we're planning for the event in September. Okay, we're doing it now. We're setting these things in place now. I had some weird analogy where it's like fundraising is a marathon, not a sprint, right? And so forgive me for getting cliche, but you sign up for the New York City Marathon. It's in November. It's January. When folks hear this, it's going to be January 11th. You know what I mean? If you start training now, are you doing yourself a disservice for your marathon in November?
Not at all.
Yeah, exactly. Some would actually say, yeah, now's a good time.
And the training may not be that you're going to go out and start running maybe you're just planning what your training is going to be.
Sure.
It may be that I'm going to do this certain this run program, and I'm going to start off on, February the 1st, and this is how it's going to go. I don't,
yeah,
there's a lot of different things. But you have to start that process. I always say, people say, when's the best time to start working on a fundraiser? I said the day after the previous one.
Yeah. Yep.
The day after is when you start. What do you mean? Well, that's when you go in and analyze everything and you say, okay, what went well? What do we want to change? And then write it down and put it in a book. And everybody wants to save it on the computer. I'm like, no, print it off and put it in a book.
Yeah. Share it with everybody.
Put event guidebook on it. And that way it's something physical that you have, and you can go back to the book and you start putting all this information in it. Even if it's just your notes and just to say, well, this is what went. So that way, whenever you have your committee meeting, you pull your book with it and you take it out here and somebody goes, hey, well, I don't know. Let's have a wine pull. Well, we did a wine pull last year and it raised, $37 net money. Do we want to do something else?
Precisely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not picking on wine pulls. I'm just using that for an example. So that way you have that information, because if you don't set the agenda will set you. It just will. It will happen. And you'll default back into the same old thing. Everybody says, I want to really change things up next year. Okay, that's great. Then you better write it down and start talking about it and start making it happen, because otherwise you'll default back into the same thing that you did before.
I spoke to a lady that's doing a big online fundraiser today, as a matter of fact. And she's like, yeah, I'm really glad I'm speaking to y'all and everything, because I don't have the bandwidth to go around chasing gift cards anymore. And I said, yeah, it was kind of like your wine pull, analogy.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, and they don't raise a lot of money now, do they? And she's like, no, they really don't. And I'm driving around going out and asking people for gift cards and all this. I'm just not going to sell another gift card. People can get as many gift cards as they want at the drugstore, And I was like, wow, that's actually really, I think I'm going to share that. So I think it's a reality a lot of folks are facing.
Well, it really is. And they start having these ideas of what they want to do without considering how much money they will raise.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, just like our friend Amy from MDA always says, It's a fund, FUND raiser, not a fundraiser. We want to put the fun in fundraising, but it's we're here to raise money. That's why when people start talking about ticket prices, they start setting a ticket price without even knowing what the ticket what it costs to feed someone. Well, I don't want to go too far off. I want well, well, are we raising money, or we just want to have a spaghetti dinner? If you want to have a spaghetti dinner, then let's just have one of those, and we'll save some money, save some effort, save some time. We'll just charge $10 the door, and we'll all get together. But if you want to raise some real money, you've got a plan for it.
Amy's one of the most prolific fundraisers that we know. She's going to be on with us on January 18th.
Well, I want to. I'll speak about that. The reason is because she has a plan.
She has a book too, by the way.
She has a book and she has a plan.
One of those books.
And she doesn't. They're big on their committees. They let the committee run the event and do all the stuff, as long as they paint within the lines. As long as you color within these lines, you do anything you want to. Everybody can do handstands. You can have jumping jacks. You want to have acrobats? Fine, bring acrobats. We don't care. You want to have a Scottish auctioneer? Great. Don't care, as long as he paints within these lines. You want to have a Japanese auctioneer? Great. Don't care, just as long as it does this. Whatever you want to do, as long as you paint within these lines and, hit your goal.
And it works.
And I think that's where we get, as nonprofit professionals, I think the number one, and I'm saying staff members, I'm talking about a paid staff of a nonprofit, the number one place that they could improve in 2024 is to focus on setting boundaries and goals, realistic, smart goals. Smart goals. If you don't know what it is, look up the definition of a SMART goal, which is specific, measurable, relevant, and timely. Hey, I remembered.
I like
surprisingly.
That's really good.
But if you set your goals of what you're going to do fundraising, you say, I want to raise $150,000. Okay, that's it. Nothing changes. It's in stone. We're going to raise $150,000. Not, well, gosh, I don't know. And I literally had somebody say, well, we're going to ease into this market. We're going to, we haven't had a fundraiser for a couple of years. We're going to ease into it this year. And I said, if you ease into it, you're going to get your head knocked off, because there's another 25 events that are going to blow your doors off.
Yeah, or you're going to leave money on the table, or both.
Yeah, you might, if you're going to do it, do it.
Might as well just do it. Yeah.
There's no such thing as easing into anything. Don't ease. Go with, go forcefully.
No, I think it's good. We're gonna keep talking about it as a friendly reminder. Once again, folks know a lot of this. They need to be nudged. Folks don't know this, then we're telling you for the first time. There's no better time to start than right now. We're going to have a couple really great webinars on January 11th and January 18th with very prolific fundraisers that we hope everyone tunes in for every Thursday, for that matter, as a matter of fact. But yeah, good stuff, man.
Can I go off on a tangent for just a second?
I would like for you to. For
those of you that are listening, because obviously if you're listening to this, you're wanting to raise some money, and we appreciate you taking the time to do this. But here's the second, the number one thing is to set your goals, put them in stone. Don't deviate. You can always make more money. And if you come up short, so okay, then you're going to figure out where you did, but set your goal and stick to it. Go shoot for that. Don't start changing it based on, well, I didn't get as many people on my committee as I did. So just set your goal and stick to it. Then the second thing, most important thing that you can do, is spend time understanding and identifying the people that you know. And when I say you, I'm talking about your organization, your board, your staff, you personally, your committee. Who do you currently know? People that have already donated to you, people that you would like to know, people that are in your sphere. This phrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know, is true.
And how well you know them.
The fundraisers, the people that we're seeing blow the doors off of funding that we saw in 2023 that made organization changing funding changes. I mean, they really upped the game and did it. It's because they doubled down, they focused on the people that they knew, and they really went deep with those relationships, and they reached out to them, and they got them to be, and they challenged them. They asked them to give more than they've ever given before. And if they'd already given, they got them to do bigger and better, to become a deeper part, more integral part. It's who you know that's going to do business with you. I think that is the number two most important thing that you can do for 2024 is, number one, get your goals set, your goal and your plan. Number two, focus on the relationships you already have. Even if your event's not until September, well, I don't want to talk to him too soon because it's September. No, you want to talk to him now.
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and get them engaged.
Yeah.
Let them, if it's somebody I'm going for a large sponsorship, I need to start talking to them now.
For sure.
Hey, I'm talking to you, Trevor, because I want you to be a part of our event. It's not until September, but I want you to think about it now because we want you to be a big part of it.
Absolutely. I also think that proves your intention as well. Oh, wow, they're serious about this. It's in 9 months. They're serious.
It totally does. And they, I don't know of anybody that doesn't appreciate that. One, they're going to be flattered the fact that you're thinking about them in that regard. So there's a little ego to it. Number two, it gives them some time so that way they can start getting their head around it. Number three, it lets you start developing that relationship to see where it is. And it also is courteous to them to let them know that even though I have a box, this is our goal and this is, the parameters, they've got some say in what's going on. I'm putting 50 grand in. What does that mean? Do I get 2 tables? I don't care. What do you want? Well, I just want 1 table. That works for me. Can my font can you do a certain font for me? Absolutely. Okay. Whatever those kind of things are.
Yeah.
You got to be careful on the flip side. They'll take everything. They'll say, I want my logo on the cups. I want it on the plates. I want it on the napkins. I want it on the bathroom door. I want all this other stuff. And
that's a fine line between invitation and ownership a little bit, but
yeah,
but
exactly.
It's cool. It's a great conversation to have. It's a great conversation to have. No question.
Yeah.
So it starts engaging people right away. Absolutely. And you said there is some flattery involved, and that's very real.
Now's the time to have those people exercises.
Yep.
And have a people exercise with your staff, have it with your board, because you've probably got new board members that you have not done. Your board probably has been underutilized in the past anyway. They always are, because everybody sits in a room and goes, man, I wish we could get somebody, think of anybody to come. Nobody can think of anything because they never break their phone out. Most powerful fundraising tool in the world is your cell phone. Get them to get those phones out, start flipping through their addresses, say, do we think they might help us? Most of the time they would.
Yeah.
If they know you, if they care about you, if you have any kind of relationship, they're going to care about your stuff.
Especially if they're asked. Why do people give? Because you ask them.
Yeah, it happens.
You taught me that, hey, I want to go ahead. I'm going to put your business in the street. The brightest mind in fundraising, our head coach, does more coaching sessions with his time than anyone else I know. Reach out to Jason if you want to know what the people exercise is. He can walk you through that. He does coaching on a regular basis, gives his time away for free. You can reach him at jason@hgafundraising.com. You can go to hgafundraising.com, click on the free coaching button. We're available to help, just to get us to show you where those lines are and parameters are with your goal setting in 2024. People exercise, anything fundraising, reach out to us, reach out to Jason, because we're here to help.
Please do. Please do. Don't hesitate. It's, there's no agenda on our side except to help you raise more money.
That's what's up.
So we'd love to do it.
Yeah, and even years rock, so let's make the most of it. I can't explain to you why. They just feel good. Yeah, I know 2024 is going to be a banger. So, hey, brother, thanks a ton so much for the time.
Man, thanks for having me.
Yeah, brother. Hey, let's do it again.
For sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening. If you love our podcast, click the download button, rate us, and follow us on social media at HGA Fundraising. Get out there, start fundraising, and raise more money. See you next time.